Today is the 14th day of the month of Cheshvan. We are in the middle of chapter 11, discussing the laws of Mezuzah. Today we will be doing paragraphs 12 through 20. Paragraph 12. So this is another couple interesting cases. The first case that the Cheshvan talks about is, let's say, instead of a flat lintel on top, it's a round lintel. It's like an archway, kind of straight wall, straight doorposts, but the top, instead of being straight, is rounded. Does that need a mezuzah? And the answer is, as long as the doorpost is 10 tefachim high, 10 handbreadths high, which we said is approximately 3 feet, then it does require a mezuzah. Now, let's say there aren't any straight walls. It's just one huge arch. The doorway is one huge arch and fully sloped, so there's nothing straight up at all. In that scenario, if you could fit into there a doorway of 10 tefachim tall at 10 hands breadths, again, that's around 3 feet, with a width of 4 hands breadths, approximately 14 inches going horizontally. If you could fit in there imagine sticking there a block, which is 3 feet tall, 14 inches wide. If that fits into that archway, then the archway would require mezuzah as well. One more interesting scenario. Let's say you have a doorway. On one side, the doorpost goes straight up to the lintel. On the other side, the doorpost goes up. Then there's like a cutout away from the doorpost, at least an amma. So approximately 22 inches cut out, like away from the doorway. Then it goes up a bit more, and then it reaches the top of the doorway and extends all the way back to the other side of the doorpost. Again, I'll try finding a picture to link to so you can see what the diagram of this looks like. So in that scenario, if the doorway which extends all the way to the lintel, the doorpost which extends all the way to the lintel is on the right, the mezuzah goes there, no problem. If the doorpost which goes up a little bit and then cuts away, if that doorpost is the one on the right, then if it's 10 tefachim tall, again, that's 3 feet tall, that short part of the doorpost, then you could put the mezuzah on that mini doorpost over there. If it's less than 3 feet, then you'd put the mezuzah on the cutout part deeper into the wall. Again, I know this is a bit confusing. I'll try finding a link to post, which has a picture so you can see what it looks like. Paragraph 13. There's a disagreement amongst the different halachic authorities if a doorway which does not have a door, does it require a mezuzah? So practically, we do put up a mezuzah there, but we do not make a blessing when we put up the mezuzah there. Therefore, it's best when you put up mezuzahs on other doorways also that do require a blessing. And like we said, one blessing could cover many doorways. So make a blessing on a doorway which does have a door, and that'll include all these other doorways that don't have doors. If you have a doorway that you plan on putting a door into that doorway, but right now there's no doorway, so put up a mezuzah now in that doorway without a blessing. And once you put the door up, you have to take down the mezuzah, make a blessing, and then put it back up. Paragraph 14. You only have to put a mezuzah on a home which is meant to be a real permanent home. So when you build a sukkah, we only live in a sukkah for 7 days. That's not considered a permanent home. Therefore, a sukkah would not require a mezuzah. If somebody is going on a road trip, they're sleeping in their car for a couple of days, that would not require a mezuzah. But if somebody is actually living out of their car for more than 30 days, then they should put up mezuzah on their car. If you have a little hut, some sort of stall in a market area, that stall is only used like on market day. It's not a proper store. You might find this in 2024, like by flea markets or in such cases. So over there, because it's not a proper store, it's not a proper building, it's only meant to be used temporarily, that would not require a mezuzah. However, stores that are proper stores and places of business, offices and the like, would require a mezuzah. Paragraph 15. Let's say you have a porch which has some sort of canopy over it. And let's say this porch even has 3 walls and some sort of like thin roof over the porch. And even if that fourth side does have 2 poles on the side going up to support the roof, those poles going up do not constitute the doorposts of a doorway, because those poles, their primary purpose is to help support the roof, not to be a doorway. So that fourth side would not require a mezuzah, even though it does have what looks like 2 doorposts and a lintel going across the top. If that fourth wall does have some sort of partial covering, some sort of partition over part of it, then that would now turn it into a doorway likely, and it would require mezuzah. As always, when in doubt, call your local rabbi and ask him if you come take a look at it. Paragraph 16. The general rule of thumb is that if there's a building that's meant for people to live in, or to spend time in, then it would require mezuzah. So what about something like a guardhouse? You don't live in a guardhouse, but a guard does spend a lot of time in the guardhouse. So there's a difference of opinions whether a guardhouse would need a mezuzah or not. And therefore we do put up mezuzah, but we do not make a blessing on it. What about a garden, a pen that we keep animals in? Do these things need mezuzahs? And the answer is no. These things are clearly not meant for human habitat, even though people are in there, but it's not meant to live in there, and therefore they do not require mezuzah. Now, all this is if they don't go anywhere. But let's say you have a guardhouse, which you have to walk through the guardhouse to get into the building. Or you have an animal over the front of your house. You have like an enclosure for animals, and you have to walk through that enclosed area to get into the house. Since it's now attached to the house and the inner rooms need mezuzahs, so too these outer rooms need mezuzahs, these outer areas, and therefore you would put up mezuzah and even make a blessing when you put it up on these outer areas. This is the reason why gates to city, if we talked about wall city earlier, if you have a walled city or a walled neighborhood, even though nobody's living in the street, but since that leads to houses inside the area, inside the walled neighborhood, the gates to those areas would require mezuzahs. Paragraph 17. Another few types of places that do not need mezuzahs are a bathhouse or bathroom does not get a mezuzah on it. If you have a tannery, would not get a mezuzah. A mikveh, a room which has a mikveh in it, doesn't get a mezuzah. However, what about a barn? We discussed previously an animal pen. Let's say you have a barn which is like a proper roof. It's a proper building. Or you have a chicken coop. So in these scenarios, there's a difference of opinions whether they need mezuzahs or not, and therefore you put up mezuzah, but we don't make a blessing. If you have a storeroom of wine, some sort of wine cellar, also you put up mezuzah, but we don't make a blessing on it. Paragraph 18. This isn't so common nowadays, but if there's a room which is designated to be the diaper changing room, that would be akin to a bathroom and would not put a mezuzah up on that room. But even if there isn't a room designated for changing diapers, you're still not supposed to change a diaper in a view of a mezuzah. So if you have a mezuzah case which is clear, then you should make sure that your back is you're between the mezuzah and the child that you're changing the diaper, in order that the dirty diaper being changed is not in sight of the mezuzah. In addition, if there's a mezuzah which has a clear case, one is not supposed to be naked in front of such a mezuzah. It's not so appropriate, and therefore it's best for bedroom doors to have mezuzah cases that are not clear, that are opaque. Now, even if a person has a mezuzah case which is opaque, still a couple is not supposed to be intimate with a mezuzah in sight. And therefore, if the couple is being intimate and the mezuzah is on the inside of the door instead of on the outside of the door, then they should make sure to put some sort of additional cover on top of the mezuzah before being intimate. Paragraph 19. You only need a mezuzah in a house or a building which is fully owned by Jews. If this room or building is owned in partnership between a Jew and a non-Jew, then no mezuzah is required. However, let's say the building is owned by a partnership, but the Jew has his own private room inside the building. That private room would require a mezuzah. Paragraph 20. Trap doors in the floor do not require a mezuzah. This concludes today's episode. Have a great day and see you tomorrow.